And this man's heart is broken, and I think you're about to hear that. Well then, that tune changed. This is Wretched Radio. Perhaps you were hearing us interview Maxim Slivka from Tomorrow Clubs in Ukraine, tomorrowclubs.org/wretched. And Max was describing what it's like to be a Christian in Ukraine. And he was, I think, giving the facts, stating this is what's happening. The bombs are going off. This is what parts of the country are under assault. And he gave us the information that we were hoping to hear. But then we ended the phone call. Jimmy, you kept recording, didn't you?
I did.
Because that's just standard. You just keep recording. And that's when we heard Max's heart. That's when Max kind of let down his guard and shared how he's really doing and what it is like to be a believer in Ukraine. I'd like to share that with you now, because earlier from Max, you heard the facts. Now you're going to hear the heart of a man who's a believer in Ukraine, trying to protect his family, worried about the church because there has been so much active growth in the Ukrainian church. And this man's heart is broken, and I think you're about to hear that.
Todd, I forgot to mention, please pray for just to tell you what's happening. Maybe you don't hear this news. But Russians, what they're trying to do right now, they were not able to break through. What they're doing right now, they launch, it's called hail rocket systems on the cities that actually level and burn the cities to the ground.
Yes.
So they were not able to fight the Ukrainian army forces. So now they're launching rockets, and they're targeting hospitals, they're targeting kindergartens, schools, and just apartments where people live. If you look up go to Google, look up Kharkiv. The city is devastated. I know, the eastern cities were, if you look at Kharkiv, Zaporozhye, if you look up Bucha, Kiev, they just hit. There was a rocket. Maybe you've seen it on TV. Hit the high-rise apartment right in the middle. So now they're trying to kind of create some kind of panic, and this way kind of take over, mentally win Ukrainians. That's what they're trying to do. It's their tactic used, in Georgia when there was conflict in Georgia. The same tactic in Syria. The pattern is the same. But when you look at that, really, my heart is so broken. I kneel down. I spend more time on my knees than ever before. And I just cry to God, and I say, God, please, you bless this nation. There's so many believers, and right now they've been serving. They've already been going to other nations, and now we are having this evil. It's evil. It's not. It's like the war between the good and the evil, and to do what they're doing. I mean, to me, my heart, I just cannot take it. I cannot understand this. So that's why I think right now we should pray, because you see, every night we go to bed and we just pray and pray and pray, and we're thinking, when we wake up tomorrow, will we wake up in the same country, or do we no country at all? Mm-hmm. So we wake up in the morning and read news where the cities are still around. Our army is kind of holding. People are still there. Our relatives are still alive, and this is the first thing that we do, call our families to find out if they're okay. So this is kind of the mode we're living every single day.
That helped us, didn't it? Incidentally, when Max suggested we Google, I will butcher this, Kharkiv. It has a K in front, Kharkiv, Ukraine. And the first thing that you're going to see is just rubble. Beautiful buildings that are just being bombed and decimated. The Russians don't appear to be able to conquer the Ukrainian army, and so they're just trying to wreak havoc by bombing cities, by bombing hospitals, by bombing grade schools, entirely indiscriminate to invoke terror into the Ukrainian people. You might not be seeing that on MSNBC, but then again, you're a Christian and you don't watch MSNBC. Please be praying for the Tomorrow Clubs, please. And support them if you can at tomorrowclubs.org/wretched. Jimmy, tell me how uncommon that phenomenon is that we just heard. When somebody's talking, usually before the interview, they've got a particular tone, and then the interview starts and the tone changes.
Absolutely.
We kind of got the flip-flop with Max here.
That's right.
Yeah. We're talking, interviewing, and he's being very casual and talking about the issues and giving us the facts. Then the microphone went off, and we actually heard him and his heart. It is broken. I think that we need to have a global understanding of what Jesus is doing. He's building his church. I can't tell you the country that this was in, but I just saw a video. They said, don't release this because it'll get people in trouble. It happens to be in a country where Christians aren't welcome. It's very difficult. You can probably guess the religion that makes them feel that way. And they were showing pictures of the Masters Academy International and pastors that are gathered together to learn how to rightly divide the Word of God. And I was like, wow, Jesus is doing that in that country? I mean, there's stuff going on there. And there's stuff going on around the globe. And there are believers in Ukraine, a lot of believers in Ukraine. When I heard John MacArthur say that they've trained, I think, at least 1,000 pastors in Ukraine through the Masters Academy International in Ukraine, and knowing that there are 17,000 kids that gather every week with the Tomorrow Clubs, I got to tell you, I was encouraged and then really sad for all of the believers that are there. If you think we're having supply line issues, and supposedly we are, what's causing it? But what's happening in Ukraine right now, and believers just getting sustenance, medication, the basic necessities of life. They're living in places where the toilets get bombed and the sewer system doesn't work. It's hard. So be praying for our brothers and sisters, and that freedom will reign so that the gospel can just keep going forward without oppression, without being put in jail. That's our Christian brothers and sisters in China, where Jesus is currently working. This is why Jimmy and I probably encourage you to pray for our brothers and sisters overseas more than just about anything else. It's hard over there. And this is a reminder to us. When Max said, we didn't expect this. We never thought this would happen. Ukraine has been free for 30 years. They've got highways and they've got cell phone towers and they've got jobs and they go about their lives with being able to say whatever they want to. Something we used to be able to do here in the States. And then they get invaded. God isn't playing geopolitics. He's playing geo-church. And he is doing what he desires to do to bring him the most glory. And there are times when he can do things that bring difficulties into the lives of his children. We're starting to sense how that could happen more than ever, aren't we? If you had asked me about that sensation 10 years ago, I would have been like, America, we're fine. It could turn on a dime, and that is why having the doctrine of sovereignty firmly embedded into your heart and mind before difficulties strike is so crucial. If you wait for the difficult event to deal with the issue of sovereignty and God's goodness, you can't divorce the one from the other. Otherwise, you're going to be scared. Because if God is sovereign, he does whatever he wants to do. If he ain't good, we should be terrified. But he is good, and that means everything he does, even for our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, it's for their good. Now, how hard is it to find comfort in that when you're hearing bombs going off around you? It's a little trickier. And that is why you should have this theology firmly embedded into your thinking before the tragedy strikes. It might not be a nation collapsing. It could be your health crumbling. It could be your children abandoning you. Before it happens, remember, God is sovereign. He is not responding to the needs of his children. No, he's orchestrating and ordaining everything. And he will use sin sinlessly to bring about his glorious end. And along the way, not just the result, but along the way, it will be for our good. Let's be praying that our brothers and sisters in Ukraine will find comfort in that. And let's use this as an opportunity. Maybe spend some time with the family talking about the doctrine of sovereignty and God's goodness, because you never know when this might happen to us. This is Wretched Radio. If you would like to see the entire episode of the snippet you're watching and perhaps check out my piano chops, simply visit wretched.org. Pepperoni pizza for Pete, which in an odd way is a lot like the difference between imputation and expiation. Are you familiar with the difference, Pete?
I didn't order a pizza?
But it actually in Latin means completely, to completely atone. It's a Latin word, expiationem, and yet an action noun because it comes from the past participle stem of